What's going on, folks? It's your boy Javier Javier with the Javier Javier Show. Make sure you say it twice. Man, I got a special guest. We finna get into it, so make sure you stay tuned. What's going on, folks? It's your boy Javier Javier with the Javier Javier Show. I'm here with my boy Caesar. Caesar. I'm trying to get his name down, but you know we've been planning this for a while, so I'll let him introduce himself and kind of tell you what he's all about. What's going on?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on your show, Javier. I got to say it twice when I'm on the show. Man, I don't know where to begin. It's really great. First of all, I'm just excited about all the things that we're going to talk about. So, but just to give you a little bit info about myself, really, you know, I say I'm a philosopher, but I look at myself more as an engineer of ideas, and it's all based on a solid foundation of comedy. Like, it's really, I'm fundamentally a cynical philosopher, and really that stuff is just funny. So yeah, a cynic, an engineer, and an activist. I'm passionate about a lot of different issues, some a lot more than others. Ethics and animal liberation, those are my main concerns, but I'm also just fascinated by economics and market theory. So a lot of my ideas just flow out of all of that combined.
Okay. Now, I first met you, we met on Facebook, and I know that you have a program going on called Egora, and this is something we spoke about a good bit, and kind of tell people what Egora is all about and what you're trying to achieve with that.
So the best place to start explaining that is actually with the International Logic Party, because the whole reason that Egora exists is for the International Logic Party. The idea was, it struck me about a little over 2 years ago. I was thinking, like, why is politics so irrational? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm like, what if there was a political party that just tried to be logical? It just tried to be rational. Like, that was its main goal. And so I started thinking about how it would look like. Long story short, what it came down to is that it needed to be based on citizen assemblies, like really people coming together, like real town hall type of dynamic. But the question was, how do you involve, you know, millions and billions of people in a town hall meeting? It's impossible. The time constraints are just, well, the biggest block. So it's hard to do that. So how do you get around that? Well, so I spent some time thinking about it, and I was just involved in crypto investing. Well, crypto gambling, let's put it more that way. I think it's more accurate. And the platform CoinMarketCap actually inspired the whole idea for how you can scale the dynamics of a citizen democracy to unlimited size. If you know anything, well, maybe not all the viewers are familiar with that, but basically CoinMarketCap is a website that tracks all of the different cryptocurrencies. And so you got Bitcoin on there, you got Ethereum, and all these other currencies. Theoretically, anyone can create their own currency, release it, and have other people sell it and use it. And so CoinMarketCap is tracking all of that. And so right now, Bitcoin is #1. It's been #1, I think, always. I don't think anything has overtaken it. And so the more that people buy that currency, the more that currency capitalizes, the higher it's displayed. And it occurred to me that, well, you know, you could do the same thing with ideas. You know, instead of a currency being called Bitcoin, you could call it higher taxes, or you could call it lower taxes, or you could call it more public spending on education. You could issue a currency with that name, or whatever. Maybe the name has to be longer to more carefully, more specifically articulate an idea. And then if people buy that currency, then the currency would rise on CoinMarketCap, right? Well, but the problem is, well, we don't want people to be spending money just to be voting on these ideas. So basically, Egora is like CoinMarketCap, but with that, people are not spending money to vote for ideas, or excuse me, invest in ideas, because it's not just voting, it's really investing into ideas. People are actually spending their intellectual real estate, a finite amount of their intellectual real estate, which is what makes the system equal for everyone, because everyone in the system has the same amount of, well, it's called the ideological profile. Everyone has the same number of ideas that they can support. And so as you support these ideas rise up on the index for more people to see, and we can organize, well, basically unlimited amounts of information from people about how to organize societies. And
Okay.
this is used by the International Logic Party. I'm going to pause here for a moment because that's a lot.
Yeah. So basically, if I could say back to you what exactly you're trying to achieve, you decided to take the same concept as the stock market and apply logic and reasoning and ideas that could go towards policy making and create a community where the ideas compete for one another and see who has the best ideas. And those ideas that are more valuable, per se, gets higher on the totem pole. And those are the ideas that are promoted and exchanged on the market. Okay, sounds pretty concrete. You gave a good rundown of it. So let me ask you this, because I had a question about this. How do you stop people from hijacking that concept? How do you stop trolls, for instance? Let's say a guy got a group of friends and they all decided to flood your market with a whole bunch of bad ideas and vote for them and get them to overtake the good ideas. How do you prevent something like that from happening in your market?
We're not trying to prevent it. We welcome it. Please try to hijack this market, Please. But, no, that we get more users, more people find out about it, and more people start to use it, which is exactly what we want. We want everyone to be using it. And so people bring up these concerns. What if a bunch of people, I don't know what language I'm shouldn't use on your show, but what if, let's just say, a bunch of bad people or not so smart, clever people or whatever, put a whole bunch of bad ideas on there. Well, I'm not worried about those kinds of people using this system to represent their ideas. What I'm worried more about is about good people, rational people, smart, concerned people, responsible people not using the system. That's the only weakness of it. So, even if a whole bunch of bad people start to use it, let's say, then eventually, if that makes the system more popular so that more people hear about it and be like, wait a minute, why are we letting these jerks be using this system? We could be using this for our ideas. And then, so yeah, the system is ultimately self-correcting in that regard. As it grows, it becomes more self-correcting. And, just as a joke, I say that, in Egora, there are no bad ideas. Or all ideas are good ideas. Some ideas are better than others. That's what I say. All ideas are good ideas. Some ideas are better. Now, personally, I know some ideas are bad ideas, but it's just to have fun with it, because the whole point is, hey, unless you can give us a better idea, maybe the idea that you think is a bad idea, it's actually a good idea, and you're the one who's ignorant. Give us a better idea. It's the challenge. It's the challenge to everyone. Give us a better idea.
Well, so basically, the system is only as good as the people that participate in the system.
Well, it's almost a perfect system. The only problem with the system is when people don't use it. That's the only. But it actually really, it really harnesses the wisdom of the crowd. You'd have to get into it. It would be a much longer theoretical explanation, but really good ideas do rise up, actually, because people want to express ideas that they're actually proud of, because this gives people real power, but it also gives them the responsibility that comes with that power. And so when it actually comes down to expressing some ideas, people scratch their heads. I mean, actually, I don't think I've seen anyone literally scratch their head, but they're like, oh wait, I actually have to think about what I'm gonna say, because I can only support so many ideas. So yeah, this definitely makes people think.
Yeah. So as far as ideas go, do we categorize them? Is Egora something that is for all ideas? Are we talking just philosophically? Are we talking theologically? Are we talking metaphysical? Are we talking political? Are we talking all ideas, or is it tailored specifically to philosophical or just political? Like, or does it welcome all ideas from different walks of life and different schools of thought?
Well, that's for the people to decide. You can introduce any kind of idea there, but ultimately, will it rise? That's the question. Will other people also support that idea? And frankly, the ideas that rise are civic ideas, you know? But you could use this for personal ideas. You know, a friend of mine, I showed him this song once. Actually, the song is called "The Comet is Coming." The comet is coming! The comet is coming. You have to see it. It's awesome, but right. And so I showed the song to him, and then he introduces that song as an idea into Egora, and he just said, "This is the best music I've ever heard." So he creates this idea. I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea, and I supported that idea. So, and I mean, we're having fun with it too, you know. But some ideas can be personal. They could be. It just could be a way for you to organize your own life perspective and life philosophy. It can definitely be used for that. But I like to say it's for your political, excuse me, existential, political, social, and personal philosophy. I think there's like 4 or 5 categories: existential, political, economic, social, and personal. Yeah, that's what I would say. And so when you said theology, I would say religion is just bad philosophy. So I think so yeah, theology is welcome. Now I hope I'm not underselling my product here, but ultimately I just don't think those ideas are ultimately going to win in the stock market. So, but hey, but if you want to serve those ideas, and if you want to prove me wrong, you know, please do.
Well, there are some heavy thinkers out there who are involved in theology, and I'm pretty sure they might want to participate, because I know a few guys who actually, you know, run in the same circles as me and you, and they actually subscribe to religion. And I'm pretty sure they would want to put their thoughts out there. And like you said, if their ideas are not worth anything, they'll get shot down, which is a great thing. And that's kind of what you're reaching for. So let me ask you this. We got a full understanding kind of what you're trying to get, what you got going with your program. So how does that translate into the real world? How do you take the ideas that are in Egora and find a way to implement those things in society as a whole, and to actually get those things implemented on a structural level? How do you go about doing that? Do you see that long term, and how to achieve that in the real world?
Definitely. Well, like I said, this whole platform is actually designed for a political party, and what that means is our goal, one of our ultimate. Well, yeah, I guess our ultimate goal. Well, it's not our ultimate goal, but one of the main goals is to create political candidates who really represent what the people want and what the people think, and who can be trusted to actually execute the public will. Because if they don't, then we have a whole list of political candidates who are just ready to replace them. We have people just as good, if not better, waiting in line to take their place. And so that's with this platform, we're not just finding out which ideas people support the most. We also have an algorithm to create a list of political candidates based on which ideas they support and how closely those ideas really represent the public will. And so, yeah, I'm not going to get into the details of the algorithm here, but yeah, basically we're using an algorithm to create a list of candidates. Of course, the International Logic Party members still have like their final voice of approval on who they actually trust the most. But so we use an algorithm to create the representatives of the public will, who we will then support to get elected into public offices. That's how we're going to implement this. But the other aspect of that, and I think this is very often shortchanged, is that just society knowing what it values together. And even if we were not creating political candidates, there is just tremendous power in people being able to aggregate this kind of knowledge and to articulate our common values, to find our common base of knowledge, to share ideas, because this is an educational, this is a learning and communication tool, a philosophical learning and communication tool before it's even a political power management tool. And so there's tremendous power in that alone, just people more effectively exchanging ideas and finding out what we want together. So it has a cultural impact.
Sorry. Yeah, so basically you want the culture to go upstream. You want it to start at a ground level. And if you can get the people at the bottom to wisen up and smarten up, then that'll translate up the ladder, basically.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So let me ask you this. This is another question that I have for you. Because I've been doing some thinking about this as we spoke more and more about it in our private conversations. But do you think that majority of people are smart enough or equipped to make policies for the majority of the country? Do you think that people are equipped to take on such a task? Do you believe in like a true democracy?
Well, the users of our platform are not ordinary people. They're philosophers. Our platform turns people into philosophers. It really transforms people. So, and you use the word, are people smart enough? So, I have my own way that I use these words, whether someone is smart or intelligent. They mean two different things. And I'm sure you have you understand there's a difference between that. But yeah. So I would say, intelligence is that capability to process information, but being smart is how you actually deal with and considering the circumstances and things like that. So people that, because if we look at, like, let's say, is the IQ of people sufficient, of most people, to use this? And yeah, I would say that the majority, meaning more than half of the human population, is intelligent enough to participate in this and contribute to this, and really add value to it. So yeah, the majority is definitely there. Now, is the majority smart enough to do that? Well, not yet. And that's what our system does, because it really changes the way that we have conversations. It changes the ways that we communicate. It's not about, I'm trying to prove you wrong, you're trying to prove me wrong. No, we're actually cooperating. When we use the system, people are always cooperating. It's the ideas that are competing against one another, but people are always cooperating. So, I'm trying to get you on my show. I'm doing a YouTube show, Egora Experience, and on the show, I have an idea. And my guest has an idea, and I try to get my guest to support one of my ideas in Egora, and my guest tries to get me to support one of their ideas. But the outcome, so if somebody supports, if one person gets another person to support their idea, the outcome is not 1-0. The outcome is 1-1. Like, we both win. Because I have a good idea and I'm trying to share that idea, or at least I think it's a good idea, I'm trying to share it. And if I get someone else to support it, now, assuming it's a good idea, now we both have a good idea. Everybody wins. And if I don't persuade that person, then the outcome is 0-0. But we're really actually going for that 1-1 outcome. So,
well, I mean, if you don't support it and they don't support it, maybe that 0-0 is still a 1-1, because you get to get rid of a bad idea. If those ideas are not good enough to stay in the marketplace, you can toss them to the side and work on a new idea. So I mean, I don't see a way to lose in that situation at all, based on your description of, two people coming together, putting their ideas to the test, seeing if it's even worth having that idea in the first place. So, I mean, I take my hat off to you if I had a hat. You really thought this thing through, and I admire you for it. And you have a good way of expressing yourself and getting your point across. So let's get more into the political side of things. Would you say that you're liberal, conservative? Do you have a label, independent? Where do you fall on the political spectrum?
Well, that's the funny thing. Like, this whole system that we're doing, it's about tearing down that whole structure of thinking of left to right, up, down, inside, outside. yeah, it's about ideas. Like, you know, if you want to know what I think, that's what Egora is for. Is so, you know, I invite you to look at my ideological profile and look at my ideas, because guess what? You're going to find ideas that some would say are from the left, and some would say that they're from the right. So where am I? Am I on the left or the right? You know, I think I just have a bunch of good ideas, man. You know, so and guess what? And when you start doing that, you're probably gonna find yourself on both sides of the spectrum, so to speak. But eventually, the spectrum is gonna go away, man. Like ultimately, yeah, our goal is to be the only political party, not because we're gonna make the other ones illegal. It's just because the other ones cannot compete, because they cannot do democracy as well as we can do it. They just don't have a chance. So yeah, basically, it's just people doing philosophy, developing. But okay, I mean, if you want to ask me about some specific issues, I'll be happy to. And you know.
Well, what I'm getting at is, I fundamentally believe that human beings are tribal by nature. Humans have to organize themselves in groups. Well, at least that's the way it's been for most of history. Humans naturally find a group of people that they align with. Let's say I subscribe to the conservative label, but do I agree with everything that most conservatives might agree with? Maybe not. There are certain issues on the other opposite side that I agree with, but I still consider myself conservative. And we create these labels in order to simplify things. And I just don't see most human beings being able to throw away all labels in order for just simply subscribing to ideas. It creates a sense of community. It creates a sense of security to have a group that you belong to. And I would agree with you. It's not a positive thing. We don't need tribalism. But how do you overcome tribalism when we're naturally wired to that default mode of joining groups?
That's a really good, interesting question. I'm glad you're asking it, because, and that's why I said that we will be the only political party. And after we're the only political party, will the party go away? That's the question. And because the party is actually the International Logic Party, when it has no competitors, does it go away? And I think maybe it can't, and maybe it shouldn't, because maybe people still need to be a part of that tribe. And the tribe is that logically thinking people who are determined to find the best solutions. And maybe that the tribe is not always that it's this tribe versus some other tribe, but maybe, you know, maybe it's just like a higher level of being. So, you know, we're not divided, one tribe versus another. But, you know, as children are born and they slowly grow up, technically anyone at any age can declare themselves as a member of the International Logic Party through our website. So there's actually no restriction. But maybe we need to look at that. I actually have some ideas, but so maybe you mature into being a part of that tribe. You know, when you're say like, yes, I am dedicated to being a part of this group of people who want the most rational solutions. And maybe that's not for everybody. Maybe people mature into that at different times, or maybe some people will, for whatever reason, just want to stay on the outside and have to keep themselves as that option. You know, just to clarify, anyone is able to use our platform. Yeah, so you don't have to be a member of the party to be a user of the platform, and you could always do just that. So yeah, I think it actually serves an important role. It is, the International Logic Party is kind of a tribe of rationally thinking people. Whether it's going to go away, that's going to be a big test of time.
Well, you know, I think that you came up with something very, very intelligent, something that is very strategic. And I guess having you on the show, I want to give you some pushbacks and kind of, you know, question, you know, your line of thinking. That way, if anybody's out there who has any of these questions, you can answer it here and now. And also, if it's something you haven't thought about, that way you can think about it later on and probably figure out some of these issues. Now, I do want to jump on this. You said that basically anybody can use your platform no matter where they fall at on the political spectrum. And that's a good thing. So do you think there's a problem with being overly rational or overly logical? Do you think that that can backfire? Because there are a lot of thinkers out there who believe that you can't be purely rational or purely logical because it leads to negative outcomes.
Well, it depends how you frame that question. I mean, if all you have is reason and logic and no emotion, well, then you're just not living your life completely. But would you sacrifice? I mean, it's not like anyone is ever faced with that choice. Would I sacrifice some of my rationality to be experience emotions more strongly? I don't think that's really a valid choice. No, I think we should always be striving to be as rational as we can be. That does not exclude us from being, perceiving and experiencing these other things. So, no, there's no such thing as being too rational. It's a problem if that's all you're being is rational and not emotional. But yeah.
Yeah. So I listen to Sam Harris. I'm pretty sure you know who Sam Harris is, correct? Yeah. And Sam Harris has this idea where people in philosophical, when they come together to talk philosophy, they will ask questions that most people would think is abhorrent to ask, like, is it okay to kill and eat babies, for example? And based on your platform, if somebody was to present that idea on Egora, say, why shouldn't we eat babies? What would be the rational explanation on why it's wrong to eat babies? Under what circumstances is it okay to eat a baby? This is a philosophical question, and it has to appeal to emotions at some point, because emotionally, people would be angered to even have that conversation. But rationally, let's say you're on an abandoned island and it's just you and a couple babies. You're starving. There's nothing to eat. So,
you're trying so hard. You're trying so hard. Come on.
So this is the line that's drawn between rationality and emotional appeal. What the rational thing to do is to eat the babies, compared to the emotional thing is, no, you don't eat babies. Like, do you see a distinction between the two, or how you can rationally come to the conclusion where you shouldn't eat the baby in that circumstance?
There's so many things you're asking at once. I'm not sure what to address first. Okay, first of all, with Egora, it's really difficult to analyze it abstractly, because people can always say, like, what if this is an idea, or what if that? Well, is it an idea? It's like people could ask, what if the gravity starts pushing things away tomorrow instead of pulling things together? Like, okay, you could talk about that, what would happen, but it's not going to happen. So, so the same thing with some of these ideas, like, sure they do, but ultimately,
it's philosophy.
They're not going to go very far. A lot of these ideas are not going to go very far. First of all, find me a person who's actually, like, legitimately supporting this idea. Then let's talk about it. I think you're trying too hard to be, like, provocative, because we get really provocative with some of the much more real things, and that's actually even more exciting. But my system of ethics, I have an amoral system of ethics, and I describe that in the most fundamental idea of my ideological profile. So I don't want to, you and I, we should just do a show on just ethics alone, like. But so my idea on ethics is, it's there. It's amoral. It's complicated, and it's based on psychology, and it's based on the market. So. Let me put it to you this way. Is there ever a circumstance under which I might eat a baby? There could potentially be a circumstance where I would do that. And I would really have to, it wouldn't just be an island. It would be, a more nuanced situation than that. But
yeah, I was pushing back on the moral standpoint compared to just logic and reason, based on, because your platform is based on the best ideas winning, and there are going to be a lot of people who says, But what about the emotional aspect of it? Because I read this book once, and in the book it was a dilemma. If you was walking past train tracks and you saw a baby on the train tracks and a train was coming, are you obligated to move that baby? Or are you not obligated to move the baby? And let's say you don't move the baby, and then the law comes later on and says that you have to move the baby. Does the law then basically use the power of the gun to force you to do something and put yourself in harm's way because you should save the baby? Like, is it rational to put yourself in harm's way to save a baby and you might get yourself killed? Or is it rational to keep walking and allow the baby to die so that you don't die? I just don't think rationality and logic will ultimately win amongst people, because you have to have an emotional intelligence when it comes to a lot of situations, nuance. So that's why I asked that question. It wasn't to trap you or anything. It's just a lot of dilemmas between rationality and emotions that we have to balance between the two. And I'm just wondering if your Egora program accounts for that emotional aspect in the program.
You know, this is complicated, but it would be so much easier to just experience and to actually start to support some ideas and to see what kind of ideas you want to support. All right, so kind of backtrack a little bit. You know, because you're talking about both an ethical issue and a legal issue, you know, like, because I would have different answers for you, you know. Ethically, well, from my amoral perspective, I think you should do whatever you want. Like, do whatever, like literally do whatever you want. Just make sure that you actually want to do that. Like, why do you really want to do that? Understand yourself, understand your desires. Why are they the way they are? Because very likely, a lot of the things that people do, they don't actually really want to do that. It's complicated. It's psychology. That's what I said. My ethics is based on psychology and market thinking. So legally, do we want laws, you know, where you have to move a baby if you see it on the train tracks? Maybe we should have laws like that, you know. Maybe it's just better business, you know, just purely for, you know, society wins. And people who don't follow these rules, well, we're better at eliminating those people from our society or reforming them somehow, re-educating them. So, yeah, so from the business perspective alone, you know, legally it might make sense to do that. This is complicated. Like, there's so many, there's so much that we could explore. Like, honestly, like, we should do several shows about this. You know, I'm trying to.
I know I'm throwing some big things at you in a limited time, but I'm just trying to see, basically, because my biggest concern is human nature. And a lot of things that I do, I try to focus on humans as a species and the things that we do that are irrational. And I have to take that into account in my equations when I think about policies and when I think about, you know, culture, you know, and that's what I'm trying to get at with you, like taking into account the human element of these policies and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why you say politics are irrational, is because we have a lot of irrational people making policies, you know, or voting for policies.
I'd say it's more because than the manipulation and corruption. It's really a problem of information processing. Like, I mean, I encourage anyone who's watching to check out the video presentation I've made of Egora, and so I explain that. But a lot of that just has to do with scaling of information. Like a human community of like 30 people, or even like a town hall of 300 people, there's enough time for them to share all of that information. You know, and everyone is equal. Everyone has enough time to speak and be heard by everyone else. When you have millions and billions of people, you can't do that. Basically, I mean, even in a small community, a small town hall meeting, some people are going to be better speakers than others, and they will be able, maybe they're twice as good as persuading other people, but that ultimately won't get them that far. In societies that we have right now of millions and billions of people, the money that rich people have and they can leverage, the message that gets out to the public, that's like a million times more powerful than that makes a rich person a million times more powerful than an ordinary citizen. That's where the problems are. And so yeah. So anyway, our technology solves that problem. And but the other part is that you know, rationality and emotions, they're not really against one another. I think they can be, but they don't have to be. And so, you know, people have criticized, you know, I've heard a lot of criticisms about the system, that people make decisions, not political decisions, not logically, but based on their values. And that was before, you know, I've been doing this for 2 years and explaining. So I've learned a lot of the language and how to address people's concerns. And I realized that, yes, this system is about people's values. But one of the things that I've really discovered is that people actually share all of the same values. They really do, except for maybe psychopaths who are incapable of experiencing emotions. They actually just don't care about others. But when you really identify what is a value, you know, like communism or capitalism, those are not values. Those are tools, mechanisms, or ideas. Our values are efficiency. Like, for example, we want things to be more efficient than less efficient. I mean, if you don't value efficiency, you're just not going to survive. Evolution is against you, my friend. Another thing that we value family, you know, like family and connections between people, and that's a value. It's very fundamental. It's as fundamental as you can get. Another thing that we value is freedom, and maybe that I should have said that first, but that's a value. But some people might value community a little more than freedom. Some people might value efficiency a little bit over freedom or community. And so yeah, so some of these things are slightly different, but we all do value those things. And the tools that we learn, the ideas that we learn about how to realize those values, yeah, we disagree on that, but but that's a matter of education, and it's a matter of compromise, because we all do want to realize the same values, and there is kind of like a middle ground. And if we learn to compromise on the right things, everybody wins. You know, even if you have slightly different values, we still have the same values. So you give a little, you take a little, but we all win. And so the better that you can make that work, the better you can actually realize people's values. And so yeah, and logic comes into that. That's what we're doing. We're using logic to realize people's values.
Okay, sounds good. And I like the way you put that as far as compromising and being able to give a little, take a little, and that's a great point to hammer home, because I feel the same exact way. You can't get everything you want, but maybe you can get some of the things you want, and you might have to give up a few things so that other people can get what they want, and everybody wins. And I think that's the way society should be built on. It shouldn't be winner takes all and the losers just lose. And I appreciate that. So I'm a nihilist. I believe in the grand scheme of things, everything is pointless. As you know, I'm an atheist, and you are an atheist as well, correct?
That's a simple way of putting it. Let's say I'm an anti-theist.
Well, I'm an anti-theist. So, okay, we're both anti-theists. So I don't believe in objective morality. I don't believe morality exists. I think it's a concept that we created in order to make sense of the things we value. But I don't really think
that's my idea, man. That's my yeah. Okay, go on.
Okay, so yeah, so I guess we're on the same page when it comes to morals, and I mean, what else can I say? I mean, we agree on that. So as far as, since morality is not objective, it's subjective, do you think that through your Egora program that we can somehow get people to prefer things that are more logical than based on some false sense of morality that they got from, let's say, a book that was written 2,000 years ago? Do you think that your system can help root out some of those bad ideas? Because I know that you said the religious people, their ideas won't really make it to the top. Do you think that it's an efficient tool to try to help minimize bad ideas when it comes to religion? Because a lot of people, religions are not based on logic and reasoning. They said that you can't reason somebody out of something that they didn't reason themselves into. So the only reason I'm bringing this up right now is the fact that I know there are going to be plenty of people who bring those ideas, and they're not based on logic. They're not based on reasoning. But how do you reason and logic with somebody who's not basing their beliefs on reason and logic?
You know, I've met my fair share of crazy people, and the thing about that is you have to know when you actually stop talking to them. You know, a lot of people, that's the key. How do you deal with crazy people? You don't. I mean, you institutionalize them, you help them because they're sick. But I mean, depending on the situation, so we're protecting people's rights and so on. But you help them, though, but you don't argue with crazy people. But we're not talking about crazy people. Well, another way, you know, like the best way an atheist or an anti-theist, I mean, I get kicks out of talking about these ideas with religious people, but only if I feel that I can make some kind of progress with them. But it's better. Well, let me say this. One of the favorite things that I love about America is the freedom of religion. And the most powerful tool against religion is freedom of religion. That's how do you defeat religion? You give people freedom of religion, because the best thing that an atheist can do is actually just use their time productively on making cool stuff. You know, just make things that work. Do science. Do all this. Do business. Do things for the community. Do philosophy. Share ideas. But let the Muslim and the Christian, you know, lock them in the room until either they're both atheists or till one of them is dead. You know, because that's going to be the outcome.
You're in dangerous territory.
That?
I said you're in dangerous territory.
Yeah, no, but that's what's going to happen if you give a Christian and an atheist enough time locked in a room. Either two atheists are going to walk out, or one religious fanatic is going to walk out. That's going to be the outcome, given enough time, you know. So yeah, you know, with these ideas competing, I have my ideas. I have and you know what? Not to turn your show into an Egora experience, but hey, I have my idea in Egora about you know, amoral ethics. I invite you to check it out. You know, tell me what you think. Let's discuss. We could do a show just discussing that idea. But you know, if you support it, if you agree with it, support it. But you know what? Other people are supporting it. You know, and actually, and that's the whole reason why I actually created this system, is so that I could share my ideas, and so that other philosophers, like, this is not actually this system is not completely, well, it is fair, but it's not unbiased. It is biased towards rationality. Rationally thinking people do have an advantage in this system, even if they're in the minority. That's radical. I've tried to say too many things at once, but so my ideas are there. My idea is competing. If you think you have a better idea, please introduce it. But so far, my idea is doing pretty well. We haven't had an influx. So far it's a small sample size. We have not had an influx of religious people, let's say from the Christian or the Muslim faith, introducing their ideas. It's going to be really interesting when that happens to see will they be able. And that's the big question, because you put them together, and those are two enormous populations of the world. But how many ideas can they actually agree on? You know. Because they might be able to agree on one idea, God exists, but maybe they won't even want to say it that way. Maybe one will want to say Jesus saves, another one will say Allahu Akbar. And guess what? Maybe they're actually trying to say the same idea, but because they're not being rational about it, they actually divide their force into two. And then when you go on to the next idea, they divide themselves even further, because then you have the Muslims saying that, you know, Shia, and you have Shia and Shiite
Sunni,
and Sunni.
Yeah. Five sects of Islam. So
yeah, and then the Christians are doing the same thing. They're dividing themselves. But rationally thinking people, they can consolidate their ideas much more effectively. Now, whether ethical ideas are going to win, we'll see about that. But hey, I think I actually have a really good idea in there. I want to keep that as a little bit of a teaser, you know.
Yeah, because you want more to come later when we do your show. And yeah, like somebody said, I don't know where it originated, but they said that every religious person is an atheist to every other religion except their God. So basically, they know everybody else's religion is wrong except theirs, but they can't somehow fathom how an atheist can say their religion is wrong. So, like you said, you put these guys in the room together, and they'll just tear each other's ideas down, and they do it already, you know. So I really get what you're saying. A lot of people, if you're listening to this right now, I think this is a great program, something that y'all should really check out. Get your ideas heard. A lot of y'all don't get your ideas heard, and y'all haven't had time to sit down and formulate y'all thoughts. And right now, he's telling you, hey, you know, here's a place where you can come put your ideas. We can challenge those ideas. And if your idea wins, then it moves up, and you keep coming with them. And you, men sharpen men, minds sharpen minds, steel sharpen steels. So that's basically the crutch of the argument for your program is let's sharpen each other, basically. So Let me ask this. So let's get a little personal. We talked about your program. People kind of got a good bit of information on what they're getting into when they come to Egora. So let me ask you a little bit more about yourself. How did you come up with this idea, and what got you into philosophy and these types of things? Well, let's start there. What got you into this whole idea in the first place?
Well, I want to ask you, what are our time constraints? Because how much do we have?
We got about 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay. You know, I'm like you started saying, I'm kind of a cynic, and originally, well, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but a lot of this started with drugs. Especially with drugs. So that I'm not going to get into that, but let's just say that allowed me to see some things that I was never able to see before. And at that point, I actually shifted towards music. That was the only thing that I still had respect for, is music. I'm kind of a musician. I don't know. I guess I'm more of an engineer than a musician, like I said. And I wish I could be. I wish I had that music speaking through me. But I do to some extent, but just, that's not my main thing. And so I started studying music. And I got a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies, and I have 3 minors with music, philosophy, and economics. And actually, all of these things ended up fitting so well together. Each one of these fields has taught me so much, and it has enabled me to put all these things together so well. But yeah, so I started with music, and then at a certain point, I got into. I did have some ideas, but I thought that it was impossible to communicate them. So I was kind of sarcastic. I was kind of a sarcastic cynic. Everything was a big joke to me, right? And then I got, and it was just kind of just having fun with people with ideas. But then long story, I'll try to abbreviate it, but basically I came across animal rights, the whole idea of animal rights, and the idea that animals also have a consciousness, that animals are also persons. And all of a sudden, I'm like, holy shit. That I don't know if I should say that, but I had to say that. So I don't know if you might be trying to keep your show clean for the children out there, but yeah, it was hugely transformative. That the ideas, because I was really trying to deconstruct the human mind, really break down the human ego. Like, I didn't know how to break down the human ego, and by comparing humans, these animals at the top of the food chain, these special creatures, right? By actually bringing down humans to the level of other animals, I realized there was a way to access that whole human ego, like how to attack the human ego, tear down the human ego. And so I got really into that, and then I started, and as I was studying music, then I was doing some philosophy classes because I was interested in, and then I realized that I can't be doing music. It takes, I don't have the drive for it that it requires. I need to be doing philosophy, and that's when I got into philosophy to kind of sharpen my repertoire of ideas and be more familiar with other ideas that have been out there already, so that when people say, oh, have you read this book, or have you heard of this guy, I already knew what I wanted to say exactly, not exactly, but so I wanted to study how other people have tried to express maybe some of the same ideas as I did. It wasn't that I was looking for ideas. I was looking for other people, for other craftsmen, other craftspeople of articulating their ideas. I wanted to study their technique. So that's why I studied philosophy. Then really by coincidence, long story short, I discovered Adam Smith and market thinking, because I used to be kind of a communist up until then. And but then I discovered market thinking, and that just flipped another switch. And then that put everything together, market thinking, applying that to ethics and psychology and marketing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. You seem like a life learner. You seem like somebody who's really interested in the truth and trying to figure out. You're trying to take all this chaos and make order out of it, and you're doing your part to make these ideas sharper. And you're not just doing it for yourself; you're doing it for others too. Trust and believe that. And I'm really enjoying this conversation right now. Just to let you know, because one thing that I'm working on right now myself is being a better communicator. And I come from like the projects, and I did not know how to speak well. I may not still know how to speak well, but that's something that I'm learning more and more as I learn to communicate with other people. And you seem like you communicate very efficiently. And I was very hesitant when I decided whether or not to join the Egora system and to put my ideas out there, because I had a lot of questions. And I think that you answered a lot of these questions. And I think you got a little interesting backstory, and I'm pretty sure we can go more into it later on down the line. So let me ask you this. What is it about my show that you wanted to speak with me about? What is it that you thought that people would gain from me and you having this discussion?
Well, you're definitely trying to enlighten people. I appreciate that, and really, I'm looking for other people to collaborate with, other people to discuss ideas with, and share a better way of communicating and discussing. You're a communicator. That's what I saw. And you're saying you're trying to sharpen those skills, but you're definitely doing that, and that's what we need. We need people who are going to teach others. Like when you think about it, there are 8 billion minds in the world, 8 billion human minds, and with what we're doing, we're essentially trying to reformat how all of these minds process information. Think how huge of an undertaking that is, because it's not just like we want some people to use our app, we want them to use our technology. No, we want to reform culture of how people approach communication and ideas. And frankly, I thought you're just somebody who would appreciate what we're doing, and you're someone who could contribute to it. If nothing else, we could just, because ultimately all of this is a vehicle for my ideas. I'm always, and we can get down. Yeah, ultimately this is a vehicle for my ideas. I'm trying to advance my ideas, and just by you and I talking, we can, I can advocate. Yeah. Hey, go vegan, animal liberation, so.
Oh yeah, I'm really more interested in that subject as well, because I know you told me you don't eat meat and you're an animal advocate, and I don't know if I said that correctly, but you advocate for animal rights. Is that the correct way to say it? And I'm a meat eater at the moment, and I tried to go vegetarian at one point, and it didn't work out so well for me. So I think we could even focus on doing a show just based on the whole aspect of animal rights and why we shouldn't eat meat, the health and benefits of it, and kind of hash that out. I'll tell you right now, I am no expert when it comes to animal rights, so you'll probably be schooling me. And so what else do you have planned? You got the Egora system going on. You're getting people signing up, and you're having these ideas going. Is there anything else that you would like to touch on before we end this show today that you want people to know about, or something that you think people should keep in mind when coming to Egora? Anything that you would like to put out there into the world? If anybody saw this right now, what would you say to them?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's the hardest question you've asked so far.
Here's your shot.
You know, have fun with it. You know, it's. I want one comment I wanted to make earlier was when you were saying you wanted to challenge me, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. You know, yeah, you got a challenge for me, let's do it. And you know, back to the whole idea of people, you know, being tribal. You know, some people, when you tell some person that they're wrong, some people get offended and they get really defensive about it. Whereas if you tell me I'm wrong, I'll be like, really? Okay, tell me where. Let's find out. You know, let's explore. Let's learn together. And those are two very fundamental attitudes. And it's a question. Which one of these attitudes do you have? I don't know if that can be changed. I don't know if you can teach people. Maybe some people are really afraid of that change. And so, you know, maybe some of that tribalism that goes, maybe the tribe that we're creating is of people who welcome the challenge, who are not afraid of that challenge. So maybe it is kind of tribal that way. And I apologize for that because, well, I want everyone to feel included, but at the same time, it's people who welcome the challenge who are going to change the world, not people who want to stay in the past. So, again, everyone is welcome, but if you're ready for a challenge, then, you know, come join us because we're going to grow.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to grow. You're going to make us grow. We're going to learn together, and we're going to change the world. So.
Oh yeah. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm guessing you're going to be sharing some of the links. That's egora-iop.org, just so it's there. But also, if you look up International Logic Party on YouTube, you will find the channel, the YouTube channel, with the presentation of our platform. I really recommend that you start with that presentation. It's 19 minutes long. I'm not the most exciting communicator, but you're gonna know the system. You're gonna know what you're
doing. You're fine. All right, yeah. People. So go check out Egora. You know, enjoy it, have fun. You know, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Go ahead and join the Hobby Lobby, and go check out my boy and see all the good work that he's doing. You came, you heard, you saw. Now run. Tell them we said it. And if they ask for us by name, make sure you say it twice. This is the Javier Javier Show.